This is the Big Woods Bucks podcast. Come explore the big woods and timber in North America with your host, Maine Master Guide and deer tracking expert Hal Blood. Listen to Hal and co-hosts Lee Libby and Joe Cruzy as they unlock the secrets of big woods whitetails. Each episode will provide valuable insights into the tried and true system Hal has used for the last 40 years to scout, locate, and hunt mature big woods bucks. Listen and laugh as the crew discusses Hal's legendary adventures and learn how to apply a lifetime's worth of lessons from the big woods to your own hunting and outdoor adventures.
Welcome to the Big Woods Bucks podcast. I'm your host, Hal Blood, sitting over here in Rangeley again with this crew of mine, Lee Libby and Joe Cruzy.
Hello.
We're over in Lee's shop again at Maine Mountain Millworks. He's so busy he can't come to
I know, we keep
Parlin
having to drive
anymore.
over here.
Yeah.
I'll be there all fall, so
Yeah.
we can wrap them
You're
up
coming the end of June too, right? 22nd?
Yeah, you got my bed made?
You're bringing a tent. I'm putting you in the yard.
Did my people call your people to reserve a room?
Not as of yet.
Well, write me down.
All right. Hal told me you're sleeping on his couch.
What's going on in June anyway?
June 22nd.
Oh, yeah, I know. Big party time.
Yeah. Actually, I don't know. I didn't look about when this one's going to air. Probably be over by then.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, probably will be.
Actually, I think it's going to drop 2 days after. So.
Yeah. Well, we had a good time at the Big Woods Bucks party anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this week I want to talk about some questions people had on Question of the Month. We're going to answer a few of them questions. I know we did it once before. I think it was a pretty popular segment, so I just so happened to print off a few questions. Got to get my spectacles on.
Well, you're going to go right into it, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, we don't want to talk about Joe missing turkeys and none of that stuff right now.
That's old news. That's old news.
Lee's filming woes.
Yeah, old news.
Yeah, that was the last podcast. Yeah. You didn't hear it. And Lee was crying about it. I just wanted to be famous.
Yeah. Yeah, it's never going to happen.
Do you know who I am?
Do you know who I No. Do you know who I think I am?
Yeah, who I think I am.
Oh, where that came from either.
Yeah.
Well,
I've heard that before.
yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, once again, glad summer's here, but it's going to be short. We're going to be into fall before we know it.
Like we was talking in the last podcast there was still snow, and that was what? The end of June? No, end of May.
Yep.
Yeah.
Still snow in the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got some friends in Canada. They got snow up there last week. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be real short for them.
It
guys.
must be up where you ride up there in the Chick Chalks.
Yeah, the Chick Chucks. Did you see, let's see, it was May 26th, I think it was, the forecast they were calling for 6 to 8 in the Chick Chalks.
Yeah.
They can have it.
Well, I remember we used to come up to Jackman. I started coming when I was, I think, 16 with my relatives. We'd go fishing. We'd go right back in the woods and fish several of the trout ponds. And the year before I went, they told me Memorial Weekend when they come over into town, there was 5 inches of snow in Jackman on Memorial Weekend. They just got 5 inches of wet snow.
Yeah.
They headed in the woods on that, so it's not unusual. And the old timers that live there will tell you they've seen snow every month of the year over there in Jackman.
Really?
Yeah, well, you know.
Years ago?
Well, yeah, but even there's been some of that crazy stuff even not that long ago, really, some crazy weather.
I've seen snow falling every month, but June and July.
Yeah.
I remember the end of August. We were leaving when I still lived down south. We were up here for a week or so at the end of August, and we were heading down 201, and it was snowing like crazy.
Yeah. I remember one time, June 1st, I went up Bald Mountain. Thought I'd go up and look for a moose antler. You know, the snow had been all gone in town. Got way up in high, and there was 3 or 4 feet still in the south side of the mountain. June 1st, and it was snowing. It was raining in town, and it was snowing up there, wet snow, 2 or 3 inches of wet snow way up in the higher country there, yeah. June 1st.
Huh.
Yeah. Well,
Great.
you never know.
Great.
Great, yeah. But anyways, Fall's coming. But as I get older, I tell the young people, they always can't wait till fall, and when we all look forward to it, I guess. But I tell them, don't wish away time. When you're younger, you always wish you were older. You wish it would be this. You wish it'd be next year. You wish it'd be whatever. But I tell them, just take every day as it comes and don't wish time away, because when you get on the other end of it and you're going to the twilight times, it's you don't want to wish time away. You're thinking about how much time you got left, and that's it. So don't wish any time away if you're young.
I think that starts about your mid-40s. You start doing the math and realizing that,
things just
you always want to know
faster.
that time's valuable and you don't want to waste much time. But
time goes faster.
Yeah. And it does. And I see something, probably, I think it was on TV, they had a little blip of it on one of the programs about there is actually something physiological in your body that actually does that. It tells you that it senses the time going quicker or something. It's not like because everybody seems to notice it when you get older, that time goes quicker. It's like the months go by, weeks, months, then the years go by quicker and quicker, and there's something to that. And it's just that we subconsciously sense the other end, right? We get to a halfway point.
Time to wrap it up.
Yeah, we're out of cookies. Let's wrap it up.
I kind of always thought it was as you get older, you got more stuff going on. You got deadlines, you got goals, you got things because you're going, I notice in the winter, because everything is week to week. It's all about the weekends, and it seems like one finishes up and the next one's starting. And it always seemed to me it was like that because you're just so busy. And when you're a kid, not so much. But
you wish school was over, so it was summertime when you were a kid. You wish the whole school year away, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough of that nostalgic crap. Don't wish time away.
Yeah.
Put us to sleep talking about getting old. You ain't dead yet.
Ain't dead yet. Such an uplifting subject. We're all going to die soon, boys.
Don't forget, Lee, you're going to have to learn how to wipe the drool off my face when I get older.
I'll wipe it off, all right. I'll throw you a towel.
Punch you. Yeah. That's the only reason he keeps all of us around, Lee. He needs more and more people to wipe drool.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking, too, probably I'm going to need some transport into the woods, I'm going to either carry me on a litter or wheel me in a cart and get me in on a stand somewhere.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Yeah, I'll give you a ride. Don't you worry.
We were actually, Hal and I were talking about that the other day. I said, have you ever killed a deer off of a stand? And just when you were a kid, right? You said?
Yeah, I killed a few. When I was a kid. We used to, when I went down to my relative's lodge, that's what they did in the morning, the evening. But I killed my first deer. I was sitting down. I told you that story before. My father he sat me down and he sat on the other side facing the other side of the ridge. I don't know, 30 yards from me. But I was sitting there. That was my spot. I hadn't been there 10 minutes. And then the second deer I shot the next year was the same thing. I went in and it was a little crossing I'd found, and I sat on a log, and I don't know how long I'd been there, but an hour or so I shot him. But that's all I knew back then. That's what, I was taught to do.
So we'll find you a good spot later on.
I ain't setting him in a good spot.
Another 15 years.
I'm gonna find an old signpost rub and stick it in the ground somewhere where there ain't a deer for a mile. And I'm going to stick him there and say, that's a good signpost rub right there, Hal. You watch that.
I'm going to get a battery-powered sander and go out there and make a signpost, and we'll put it on a 10-inch tree.
I'll probably still remember where some of them signposts are. I'll say, hey, you remember that one about 2.5 miles? That's the one I want to set on today. Take me back in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, with your memory, you probably will.
You'll say, "Don't look the same, Lib." I'll say, "They just cut it off, Hal. They just cut it. It's all. It's the same spot." All right. What's the question?
Okay. Here we go. This question is from Phil Bruce, Lebanon, Maine.
Yeah.
I've noticed in southern Maine, when I'm tracking a buck, it's common for them to bed down 2 or 3 times within 20 to 30 yards. I know it's only one deer because there's only one set of tracks. Do you run into this often? If so, what's your thoughts on it?
Didn't like where he was bedded.
Yeah, I had a buck in New Hampshire.
That's the short answer.
Yeah, I had a buck in New Hampshire that remember the one antlered buck I told you I should have shot? Because after I watched it run away, I knew it was over 200 pounds. But I was toting a cameraman around that day, and he was sucking wind, so I dropped him off on a tote road, sent him back to the truck, and I took off, and I come into this cedar bog, and I stepped right into his bed, and it was a good spot for him to be laying, but it was kind of out in the open a little too much, and I stepped right into his bed, and as soon as I stepped into his bed, I stopped, and I started to look, because he's right there somewhere, and sure enough, I caught him. He had moved about 20 yards and laid behind a tree, so he was still looking at his tracks, but he wasn't exposed as much as he was in the first spot. And when he jumped up, I looked, and he only had one antler on the left side. And I thought, oh, shoot, he's only got one antler. And then he ran off, and I'm like, holy crap, that's a big deer. And I never pulled the trigger. But, yeah, I think Joe's right. They didn't like where they were laying. Either they were too exposed or something come along and bumped them up, and then they realized it was not a big deal, and they laid right back down. That's my theory.
It's common. I see sometimes when they lay down, they kind of lay maybe at the edge of some green up in the hardwoods, but they're out on a little hardwood shelf, and then if the wind really comes up pretty strong, they don't like it. So they just get up and they move into the green a little bit just to, get out of the wind. I think they're not comfortable, and then sometimes, like Joe said, it's just where they laid down there and they probably looked around and they didn't like it, so they get up and just moved a little bit. Sometimes I've seen quite often when they do that, especially early in the season or late, is they feed in between. They lay down and then they get up and they feed around a little bit, and then they just lay right back down again. That's quite common. So I guess that'd be it. It is common.
I think that beds are one of those things for me that I always try to, when I come to the bed, I stop and really look around and see what it was that he liked about that, because those are the kinds of things that you want to carry on to the next one, because many times when you're tracking, you're going to jump him from his bed. That's where he's going to be. And so there's a lot to learn from just looking and seeing, all right, stop there, look around. Why did he pick this spot? What was his vantage point? And you'll find that there's a lot of similarities when you start doing that.
Yeah, they always got a vantage point. That's what's similar. I mean, later in the season.
And an escape route.
Yep, later in the season they let the guard down some. But, I actually filmed that. My buck I shot last fall, SOS there, I got down right level with the bed, and I kind of panned the camera down through, and you can see he's like laying behind a couple little spruces looking down through the beech whips down in the cut. It's just, there's no way you're going to see him there. Yeah, so...
Yeah, that was, and I talked about it, I think, before I think it was the last day I tracked a buck that kept bedding. He was just tired. I mean, the snow was deep. It was the end of the season. All he wanted to do was sleep. And he got a little bit lazier with the spots he was picking. He was just, there was one spot in particular that was a good opportunity. A couple spots, there's just no chance, like what you said. I mean, sometimes, I don't care how good you are, you're never going to see them before they see you.
Right.
If they pick a good spot, but sometimes they do leave themselves open, and
that one I shot last year was looking the wrong way.
Yeah,
laying in his bed, not even paying attention, just numbing it.
Yeah,
was it? No one's really got a chance to see that. See that film. So, that was a calm day, right? That was good weather.
Yeah, we had 10 or 12 inches of fresh snow, and the sun was shining. Yeah. It was a good day.
Yeah, because that's the other thing, too, is using the wind and all that to your advantage if they're...
Yeah, it was just noisy enough. The wind was blowing, but it wasn't really blowing around. It was just enough. It was a good day.
Yeah, as I remember,
it was a killing day.
Yeah, it wasn't blowing enough to blow the snow out of the trees or anything.
No, just enough to make enough noise to help cover.
Yeah.
But his head was he was rotating his head back and forward, looking.
Just happened to be looking the wrong way.
Yeah.
I think something you said too, Hal. I'd be curious, in regards to this question, if he's talking about the buck bedding down, getting up and walking straight to another bed and bedding down, or like you said, a lot of times they're going to get up and feed around, and you'll see all their milling footprints there, or hoof prints where they're.
Yeah. What I always do when I see a bed, if I come up and I'm like, the first reaction when you come to a bed is that you jumped them, right? I mean, it's always your first reaction, but
look to see if you walked or jumped.
If I don't see a running track immediately, I just reach down and I see if the bed's frozen, see how, because that tells me if I see that bed is frozen and there's a walking track out of it, I go easy right there, just knowing that sometimes they do that. And then if I see that he fed, I'm on that's the death creep now, because he's probably right there. Because especially again, it all goes back to first week and muzzleloader week. First of the season, end of the season is pretty similar. Usually in the middle of rut or something, once they get up and go, they're going.
Right.
I was going to say, when you said that, would you say that they? Because I've always felt like they're going to feed then lay down as opposed to get up and feed.
Well, they do both. Yeah, they do both. I remember that Purcellville buck I shot. I come to them because I just was watching the films. I've been, as Ethan edits them, we approve them and stuff. And that one there was kind of a classic example and a lot of times they bed down, they don't feed first, but they'll do something like rub their antlers or something. I've seen that a lot. They'll just stop and they'll rub their antlers and then lay down. And that's what this one did. He didn't feed. He rubbed his antlers and he pushed through a little bunch of little furs and stuff, and he laid down, and I got to that bed and it was frozen and the track was walking out of it, so I went easy. And then as soon as I got through another little thicket there, and I could see a blown down, and I see where he walked over to this spruce blowdown. He was feeding on that old man's beard, and I could see his track walking right down the side of it. And I go, oh, he's feeding now. So I went into super stealth right then, and I just looked everywhere and took one step and looked everywhere. And I got around the blowdown, and I looked over, and there was another bed and a walking track coming out of it. And I go, oh, he's right here. And I probably went another maybe 20 steps when I spotted him laying down. And he was the same way. He was back, too, because what he did was he fed his way up. There was one of them old cart roads there with a lot of blowdowns in it. He kind of headed up that, and his track disappeared up it. And I just kind of leaned out and looked around this spruce, and I could see the back of his head and his horns about, 35 yards away or something. But he'd made kind of a half-circle loop back. And he was over there feeding, and he was facing where he was just feeding. That's why he wasn't looking where he'd come from. Yeah. And that's all part of being lucky as far as catching up to him at the right place. Because if he'd have been in that bed before that, I probably wouldn't have even got a shot at him because it was thicker in there. And when I moved in, he'd have for sure seen me. I know he would have, because those first two beds were within 20, 30 yards. And then he moved off and fed a little bit, made a circle, maybe 75 yards. So, yeah, it's all the luck of where you catch up to him. So, anyway, it's very common, Phil, so don't worry about it. Just try to anticipate what's going on there and, read what it's doing as the bed's frozen or whatever. But it really doesn't mean other than he usually just spent more time there, when he didn't like where he was in the first place. So, all right. I'll move on to the next question here. Another good one. Oh, hang on a minute.
Put your bifocals on.
Put them back on here. Okay. This one is from Matt Leahy, West Springfield, Mass. I've been to your podcast along with a few other hunters, and I hear the term like swing or hook and barnyard. What do some of these terms mean? And what other terms are important to a new tracker? That's the main lingo right there.
He said barnyard or barnyard?
Barnyard, yeah.
This is probably going to get edited out, but I think it's a swinging hooker in the barnyard.
No, that's all right. Chris will let that one ride.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Swing.
That's what he's going to edit out.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny because different locations and stuff, people have different slang. But it is a good question because when you're talking about that, there is a lot of people that don't know what that is.
Yep.
And it's the same way. I remember when I wrote my first book, the publisher told me when you first use a term that you may think it's a common term, but if it's really not, you explain the first time what you mean by it. And then when you use the term again, everybody will understand what it is, but you have to define it. So when we're talking like this, just jaw-jacking here, we probably never even crossed our mind. So
swung.
Yeah. Swung
over.
Swung.
I swung over around that ravine there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So taking a swing would just mean
A loop.
a circle, or whatever. You're making a swing around. It usually involves going around, whether you're trying to cut off a buck or whatever you're trying to do. You're just making a swing
come into
around.
a bunch of tracks and you can't get it figured out, so you swing around and try to pick up when they left.
Loop around.
Yep.
Even swinging your gun. Lots of times you'll refer to I swung my gun around, and just means to move it around.
Yeah. So that's what do they call that? Swing is present tense and swung is past tense.
Is that like squeeze and squoze?
Yeah,
Squeeze and
same
squoze.
thing.
Yeah, Hal squozes off rounds, by the way.
Yeah, squoze them.
Schools.
Spell that for me, Hal. How'd you spell it in the book? SQUOZE?
I actually didn't put that in the book.
Squoze?
OOZE.
All right.
So
we
hook.
got swung is hook. Now what's hook then?
Hooking trees?
Well,
rubbing?
It could be different things. Yeah. So, and he didn't spell it out in the question, but I think he may still be referring to the same thing because hooking and swinging is basically, you could call the same thing.
Yeah, because if you hooked up around that big ridge, or if you come across
the name of this
hooking,
one's going to be hooking and swinging for sure.
if you come across the hooking, when you hooked around that big ridge, and then he jumped up and you swung, your gun up, and you squoze one off.
And he hooked to the right just as you swung.
Right. And it all ended up in the barnyard.
I was going to say, the barnyard is the one when did we ever talk about barnyards?
I know we've used yard sales, meaning barnyard.
I know we've used it.
Barnyard. Well, it wouldn't be barn anyway. It'd be barn.
Yeah, barnyard.
So going back to hook, because it is kind of funny.
Maybe the barnyard.
That's a term.
Buck.
When the Benoits came out with their videos years ago, and I watched them, they said, "Yep, he made this hooking right here." What? That was a rub to me. I never heard it called a hooking. Knew what he was talking about, but
a lot of
that's
people
another
use
terminology.
that term. Yeah, that's another term for it. That's why I try to define out the different types of rubs, just so because some people did call every rub a hooking. Some people
or
still
they call
do.
a rub a scrape. That's my favorite.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. But I think he's talking to, probably, since he didn't put down hooking, I think he's talking like hooking around, making a hook, which is the same as a swing. And
Are we going to have to start a new dictionary?
Yeah, you could have hooked.
Big Woods Bucks dictionary.
Yeah, you either could have swung, but you could have hooked.
Yep.
See? Same thing.
Or you could swing.
I'm glad we got that straightened out. It's just the stuff people want to know.
Yeah.
Is it hooking or swinging? So,
Oh, shit.
Barnyard.
The barnyard.
barnyard.
So
The
years
barnyard.
ago, I had cousins from South Georgia come up here, and as you can imagine, when you come from South Georgia, it is the dialect and everything. When you mix, a strong Maine accent and a strong South Georgia accent, it is comical.
Right.
And they got the biggest kick out of the term, as he called it, dooryard.
Yeah.
Never heard it. It's not a term you use in the South, the dooryard, and
Everybody, I remember people from out west and friends and stuff would say, "What is a dooryard?" I'm like, "It's out in front of your door."
It's related to a barnyard.
Yeah, dooryard's out in the front yard, right? It's or your yard around your house, the dooryard, right?
Right.
So the barnyard is around the barn. So guess what's around the barn? usually a lot of cow tracks and horse tracks or pig tracks or whatever.
So that's where it would have been used.
So in
like
the
a barnyard.
woods,
Looked like a barnyard.
Yeah, and the barnyard is when you get into a bunch of tracks all zigzagging and mixed in. That's a barnyard.
Yeah.
Look like a barnyard, right?
I don't know when you used that. I don't remember that, but that's a good definition. Yeah.
Yeah, I use it quite often.
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you get in the barnyard, you got to make a hook or a swing around it to pick up the big buck track coming out, see?
All right. We're on to this.
Yeah.
I still think a dictionary, Big Woods Bucks dictionary.
Yeah. I think I'll do that in I'm revising making another edition I'm combining my first 2 books anyway, so the gal's working on it now, copywriting it. But anyways,
Hal Blood.
I should
Here we go again.
I'll put a glossary in the back, and I'll put all those terms and the definitions. People probably get a kick out of it.
Yeah. Squoze.
Yeah. The act of squeezing off a shot is squoze.
It is kind of a different language. You think about it. I mean, there's a lot of terms that are
totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
And I think some of the terms are not really. Some of these terms are just what we use as a hunting term, and other ones are a language term. Like the barnyard is definitely a language term.
Well, let's take when you say the deer yard up or a moose yard or whatever,
Right.
anyone from anywhere else doesn't know what a yard is.
Right.
What a deer yard is or a moose yard, and we say it sometimes like everyone should know, but that's
Right.
not a common term.
Well, a deer yard or a moose yard would look like a barnyard, right?
Yeah.
I
Because
guess
there'd be
so.
all kinds of tracks in it, so it'd look
Right.
like a barnyard.
Yard up.
Yeah.
You say yard up to some deer hunter from out west. They're not.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do animals yard out there? I guess they do. Yeah, the elk do. They
do.
probably call it herd up. Or,
They call it migrating. They migrate from the mountains down into the valleys, but they do that.
I see when I was in
do they call it
Colorado
yard?
this winter, big herd.
I don't know. Wintering areas probably.
yeah,
like-
wintering area. Yeah.
You saw a Whatley?
Saw a big herd of elk out there in Buena Vista this year. Probably the first time I'd ever seen 300 elk in one spot. It was pretty
Yeah.
neat.
One of your many vacations you went on and left us back to take care of everything.
Yeah. Same thing you guys do to me in November.
I love pouring the guilt trips onto Lee.
Yeah.
Yeah, all my invites
There's
over
a
there.
certain-
I got. The best thing. Oh, off subject. Remember that podcast we did where Joe Donito told me that I still wasn't invited to the Adirondacks?
He's still sore about
Yeah,
that,
he's
isn't he?
Yeah, a little bit.
I think he was joking, though.
Yeah, I know he was, but
I don't.
Like, I got so many emails saying, "Lib, you're welcome to come to the Adirondacks with us if you want." So I first reply is, "Do you know where Joe Donito hunts?" Oh, I want to step around a tree and surprise the crap out of him. Joe,
Hey, Joe, what are you doing here?
what are you doing in my spot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we talked about it before. I got an invite down there that I actually would like to go down there. Those guys that had that, they set a remote camp way back up in.
Yeah.
Sounded like a
that'd be
good
fun.
time, good
Yep.
spot.
Yep.
Good bunch of guys, too.
No, I'm not still sore about it at all.
Just asking where all of it. Anyone know where Joe hunts? Yeah.
Yeah.
Evidently, Joe don't know who you are.
Yeah, he does. That's why he didn't invite.
He heard him telling about giving away all the spots. I had to quiet him down and giving away hunting spots. He goes, I don't want that guy out here talking about my hunting spots.
Oh. No, all the deer in Rangeley.
Yeah,
No.
that's where all the hunters should go to Rangeley.
They already do.
Because we got 24 places to eat in town now.
Yeah,
Couple breweries. Yeah. Growing like a weed. Be the next Jackson Hole.
yeah, good.
I do want to.
Keep them over here.
You have a lot of restaurants here, don't you?
I think there's 24 places to eat.
Good. Where are we
in town.
going to eat lunch?
Wherever you're buying. Look around you. I can't afford to eat.
Woody's buying.
Oh, perfect.
Oh,
Thanks,
all
Woody.
right. Thanks, Woody.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's one of the
Okay.
perks he gets for being the CEO. He gets to buy
Pulling
us
out the
lunch.
credit card.
And I'm the president, and he lets me have a Big Woods debit card.
Nice.
You notice Hal likes to say that?
He's the president.
Yeah, I'm the president.
because he relates to Donald. Him and Donald a lot.
Yeah,
I'm not only a client, I'm a president.
I'm the president.
yeah. We always go back and forth on them 2 terms,
Oh shit.
Well-
What's the next question?
He wanted to also
oh.
know what are some of the other terms that that people might not understand that we talk about. Like he said, evidently a new tracker. He said, what other terms might help new trackers? I don't know, really.
Well, cross-country skier is a buck that's dragging his feet.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Cross-country skier.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yep, if he's cross-country skiing or a toe dragger. See, some people might not.
Toe dragger, yeah.
Stava.
Yeah. There's a toe dragger and then there's a skier. Those are two different ones because a lot of the, when the bucks get older, they do start dragging their feet. But the ones that ski is like a steady, looks like ski tracks.
There is nothing more exciting than you see a track all the way through the hardwoods and it's just dragging.
In an inch of snow.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They're dragging right to the leaves in an inch of snow.
Do I got time for a funny story?
Oh, yeah. We got all day.
Hal remembers because I was freaking out. I freaked out a lot, I think. But
hey, Hal here. Just want to take a minute to talk about the hunting club. And you can join by going right online at bigwoodsbucks.com. But anyways, I've got all my information is going in there. And it's a place where you can get together and look at my films, tips, writings, and all of that. And the best part is there's forums for you to communicate with, the rest of the club members, talk about Big Woods stuff and all of that. So anyways, $36 a year, cheaper than getting a Starbucks once a day. So join up and hope you see you on there. Hey everyone, Hal here. Just want to take a minute to talk about the Woodman Arms muzzleloader. We got them all set on the website to build your own or buy your Big Woods Bucks model, either one you want to do. But anyways, we've tested it a lot, and I can honestly say it's the most accurate muzzleloader on the market, best to carry in the Big Woods or anywhere else at 5.5 pounds. You can't go wrong with it. So get on there and check it out.
So I have a client, and he's a very tall gentleman. Big fella, 300 plus, nicest guy. And it was like the end of the week, and he's getting tired. And I come around the backside of, I can't remember, somewhere out
some mountain.
Yeah,
anyway,
some mountain. And across the road is this cross-country skier with a 3.5-inch toe on him. And I'm like, oh my God, smoking fresh. I looked at him, I go, we can catch him. He's like, nope, I ain't got it in me. What do you say? I couldn't even speak.
I'll take you back to the lodge. I'm going hunting.
That happened the next day. But it was like probably the biggest one. It looked like a cow walking across the pasture. Like, and it's a 250-pound deer, but his track was like a 20-inch stride. So he's so tired, he can't even hardly walk. He's dragging his toes, and I'm thinking he's just down there in the woods,
waiting to be shot.
Just waiting to be shot. Nope.
Stava.
That
was another one you mentioned a minute ago.
Staver.
Yeah.
Staver.
That's another term.
That's a big one. See, that was Lee's M.O. when he was guiding, you see. He'd get the hunters wore out in about the first 3 days, so they'd take a day off and he'd go hunt or something. That's how we kind of worked.
I can see that.
Yeah.
So that's not exactly true.
Maybe not exactly, but it's pretty close.
Yeah, well, no, but when a client gets tired, you taught us client care. And if a client gets tired, you have to take him back to the lodge and rest him up, right? Well, I didn't have any laundry to do that day, so I figured I might as well go deer hunting. Remember the time you caught me hunting with a client? The client's driving my truck around, and I was in the woods hunting.
Yeah.
Oh, weren't you mad?
Yeah. Every right to be, yeah.
Driving out the road, and there's Lee's truck, so I pulled up beside him, and his client's driving his truck, and I go, where's Lee? I go, where's Lee? And he goes, oh, he's tracking a buck over in here. And I go, what? He goes, yeah, you get on a buck track. He told me to drive around.
With the client's gun.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
He told me to do it. He says, Liv, I can't do it. He said, that's a nice buck. He said, I just want to ride around the truck. And I'm like, hey, I don't know.
Yeah, you took his gun. He didn't have anything to shoot with.
I think we can catch this one. He's like, how about you take my gun and you go shoot it? I'm like,
twist my arm.
Yeah. I said, stay right on this road.
It's going to cost you, though, buddy.
Yeah.
Well, the first thing he probably said was, You can't tell Hal.
Yeah. I told him, stay off the main road. No, he's out there riding around the main road.
Probably never drove a big Ford F-250 before, diesel.
Oh, shoot. That was a good
I
day.
never heard that one.
I got called into the office for that
Oh,
one.
I bet you did. You get written up, did you?
No, he never wrote me up. He just pulled me in. You could tell he was upset, but he never really,
Oh, I can't imagine why. A gentleman
never cursed me out.
paying
Because
good
in a
money
sense,
to go
he
deer
knew.
hunting, and his guide takes his gun and goes track.
The thing about Hal is he's the same way. He's just sometimes a little more tactful about it. You know what I mean? But if a client said to him, Hal, take my gun and take that buck track, he'd be like, okay. But he's the president, so who's going to say anything? Right?
Oh,
So I think in my mind, I was thinking Hal would do this. I know Hal would do the same thing.
Oh, I'm sure that's exactly what you were thinking.
Yeah.
You were thinking, I hope Hal doesn't find out.
Yeah. I was boogieing through the woods, too. I'm like, I got to get this buck and get out of here.
How come you didn't get him?
That was the one that went 9 miles. He paralleled that whole of road for
Evidently,
9
that
miles.
20-inch stride was moving him right along.
No, this was a different one. That was the next day.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. That was the next day. I cut that buck track, and I told that guy, I said, I think we can catch him. But he had a pretty good stride on him, but I thought, maybe he was a toe dragger.
Was that ever much of a problem starting out? I mean, you hear horror stories about that.
What's
where
that?
Where the guides are carrying guns.
Oh, I thought you meant hauling people to the office.
No,
Well, that too, but
just me.
Yeah, it was mostly Lee.
yeah. Imagine Mike probably ended up.
No,
in there
what
a couple
happened
times.
was, that's a good question, because what happened was when I first started guiding too, I didn't know.
Etiquette.
Yeah, I didn't know really much about guiding. I knew about hunting, and so when we first started taking the hunters, it was just me and one other guide, and we started doing, we did some hunts at the lodge, and we do the remote hunts and stuff. It was just the two of us, and we lugged our guns and didn't think nothing of it, And then I remember my other guide had shot a buck one time, and the clients actually helped us lug it out and everything, and nobody complained about it. And then, but at one time, I ended up, when I started doing my one-on-ones, I had another guide come in and do that. So I had two other guys. They were both friends of mine, and then it was Bruce. Bruce come up and guide. He just got his guide's license. I said, "You want to try that?" And he goes, "Yeah, that'd be fun. I'll go up there." So him and Fred went up and guided the remote camp up Addian, up the lake. Well, what I found out at the end of the year was that's what they were doing. They'd take the hunters and say, "You go here and you go there," and then they were just off hunting for the day, not taking care of the clients. Yeah, and one day, and it became a problem because as soon as they leave the guys, they end up seeing a nice buck or something, which is, it's a coincidence, but if you're the guy that's paying, you're like, geez, every time they go on their own, they're seeing deer, so they ain't taking me where the deer are. That's what they get thinking, and you can't blame them for thinking that way.
No. Yep.
And I think Bruce missed 2 or 3 bucks that one year there. And the hunters told me what was going on afterwards, and maybe it wasn't, I didn't see him then, but like in a letter or a phone call or something, several of them told me that. And I go, well, that's going to end. So from then on, guides weren't carrying guns,
No, they have to borrow them from the client.
Yeah.
That's what Lee did.
That was his idea.
Yeah. Yeah, Lee's creative.
Hey.
There's always a way
there's
around the rules.
There's a nice track. Can I borrow your gun?
Yeah. Yeah. So anyways, but it made sense.
But I've read things online in different places, in Alaska and, around where guiding's going on, that's kind of a common thing with bad guides is them as a client. I mean, in Alaska, I guess is different because they're carrying bear guns, but and other places where the guides are actually hunting is never good.
Yeah. And like I said, nobody taught me anything about guiding. I just started guiding on my own, but it didn't take me long. It was only about 3 years, and I realized we couldn't be doing that. You know what I mean? You had to look out for the clients, and if you got your clients a deer, then you had a couple days to hunt, well, they could, and that's just kind of the way it went.
Yeah.
And that's how I ended up. I mean, I wasn't, when I was guiding the one-on-ones, I never carried a gun until my hunter if he got his buck, then it'd give me the rest of the week or a few days or whatever to hunt, and that was it, So, yeah.
That's what I did. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So a staver is a big one.
Stave is a big one.
Yep.
And a corker is a big one too.
Yeah, cork.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
But a corker or a corka
Or
Cow.
a
or a
caca.
Kaka.
Yeah.
And I wonder if, I was always curious about that term when I first heard it. What the heck does that mean? And it's from the cork, the boots that the river drivers used to wear. They were corkers.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that means it's a good one, but I guess that's the origin of it. But
Yeah. I don't know either.
Lee, you look like you're going to say something.
Nope.
Oh, okay. I thought you were like, what?
Oh, I'm just looking out the yard there and out the showroom, and I see my crew pulling in, and
Oh, you're like, what the
they
heck?
shouldn't be pulling
Oh, yeah, here comes a black Dodge pulling in,
Oh, yeah.
loaded with its ladders.
Yeah.
So,
What's the next term?
I don't
There's gotta be
know.
some good terms. We'll think of one.
yeah. Well, if we come
Runner,
up with one, we'll
goer.
blend it in. But
A
there's
goer was a client. A goer was a client that could go all day long. I had a goer.
That's not a term that would relate to the new trackers. They're looking for
okay.
something about information on the track, I guess.
See?
I'm thinking about it
Square-toed.
here.
The other ones are
Square-toe.
square-toed bucks. Are the ones that the old bucks that their toes don't come together in the front. They just look straight. That's just a old buck that's feet are stretched out.
Old man's beard.
Old man's beard. Yep, the moss on the spruce and fir trees.
I found
Good
that they love that. That's
It's got to be a high protein type food because they
don't pass it up.
no. I found where them bucks will go right into one and they'll eat everything they can reach from the outside, and then they'll take their horns and start snapping the limbs off with their horns. I shot one in Ontario doing that. I could hear it snapping, snap, 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 snap up in the woods there, and I finally could see his head in there, rummaging around in that moss, and finally he come out where I could get a whack at him and got him. All right, here's the last question I got. I was saving this one for last because it's kind of a long question, and this is from Greg Hurley, Bodenham, Maine. BWB crew, first off, I really enjoy the podcast. Great, glad to hear it. Keep the content coming and don't underestimate the enjoyment of your tracking stories that you have to share. I could listen to the stories all day long. I've been hunting in the mountains around Kingfield. Little competition
One of
here,
Lee's
Lee.
neighbors.
No,
Yep.
he can come to Rangeley anytime.
Yeah, he's been hunting around Kingfield for a while. Oh, they have a camp in that area. A few years ago, I found a stream that runs through kind of a natural valley between two mountains. I've hunted that valley a few years in a row and found a wet spot where the land flattens out. There's one good spot where we found 4 signposts within a 10-foot diameter of each other. Okay, Greg, Lee is going to be wanting the coordinates of that so he can go in and check it out for you so you can send them to him.
I'll go verify
Yep.
those are really signposts.
Okay, I've had a trail camera on them ever since. Hal probably won't like that. LOL. Why not?
What's on the trail?
Hey, you're an
camera?
anti-trail cam guy until you got
Oh,
that big buck picture. Now you're a big
yeah.
proponent of trail cams.
They only
Ooh,
tell you
check
what-
out my new camera. Ooh.
Trail cameras only tell you what was there. They don't tell you what's going to be there. I just like to
Yes
see,
and no.
I just like to see how many different bucks are roaming through and when. Me too. Lo and behold, every big buck on the camera has been at night during November. 6 different bucks last year, and never multiple visits by the same buck other than one young 6-point.
So they found a good spot.
It just seems that the deer are using that valley as a natural filter for travel and hanging tight to the green growth that tends to hug the stream. When hunting dry ground, how you approach hunting that stream and what are the things you'd look for to see where the deer may be coming from and why they are traveling through there. I think, like I said, Greg, if you get those coordinates to Lee,
Yep,
he'll probably get down there and figure that out for you.
So
That's a good spot.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
Kingfield gets snow, so my answer is you wait for snow and then you go in there and you
Yeah,
find its
that
trap.
bare ground's got to be tough because you really should change your vacation around to try to get to the end because what a place to pick up a buck track in the morning. Pretty good chance of it.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yeah. See, but I found kind of the same thing putting out trail cameras. Not that I put a lot out, but a lot of times you get one buck, you only get them once the whole season coming through there.
Yeah.
So what that always started telling me was I used to think, I always knew that the bucks seem to get around their territory every 3 or 4 days, and they probably do. I still think that, but they don't necessarily go to them signposts every time. I think they go through that area, maybe within 50 or 100 yards. You just don't get them on camera if they don't come right to a signpost. And other bucks you'll get 2 or 3 times in the season, but not as often as I thought, coming and putting the scent there.
That one we talked about in the last podcast, that big one, he was almost, if I recall, to the day, exactly a week apart each.
Yeah, and all 3 times that one came, and again, the funny part was he wasn't coming to the signpost, but he was I had a few others on the daylight. I seem to get daylight ones at most of the signposts, and I don't know where this particular area is, and maybe that it's got more hunting pressure. I don't know, but I get daylight pitches on almost all my signposts. Not a lot, but I always get some during the season. But that big buck came through at 9:20 in the morning. Then the next week it was 9:30. It was like within 10 minutes, which is really strange, Yeah. And then a week later it was 3:30 in the afternoon. But all 3 times that buck went by was in the daylight. So,
yeah.
And they do roam day and night, but there's got to be some reason that down in that particular spot, it's not a daylight spot. And
It just could be that's when it worked out they came through.
That's it. And
I mean, that was because they traveled by some other spot during the day. It just so happened.
yeah, yeah, those bucks aren't all nocturnal, but I think that he's posing the question is how would he hunt that particular spot?
Sit all day, every day if you're going to sit.
Yeah, if you're
not tracking.
But I think he said still hunting in there. But
yeah, I'm gonna. Well, I wouldn't. I mean, yeah, it's still a good spot to still hunt, but and then try to look at that 250 pounder they shot over to East Kennebago. I told that guy, pouring rain, bare ground. He asked the same question, how do I hunt this spot? I said, find a deer run, a well-traveled area that time of year you can find, and just hunt it back and forth. And that's what he did. And on Wednesday, he shot one, went 255.
Nice.
Great big freaking buck.
Did you ever pick that other camera up out of the woods?
no, why?
Yeah, just asking.
What do you want to be the first to see pictures?
I don't care if I'm the first. I just want to see pictures.
Yeah,
I'm curious.
I'm kind of curious about that one, but
yeah, I'm surprised you hadn't got up and got it yet.
yeah, I kind of forgot. Maybe I'll go by this week. So, what I say about that, I guess what I would say was don't get too. Some people get too hung up if they find one signpost area and they want to just hunt exclusively there. Basically, if that's what you're going to do, you might as well sit there.
Yeah.
But what I would tell this guy, Greg, I would say find some other signposts in the general area within a few miles, in that whole mountain range. You're hunting between 2 mountains. There's going to be some other signposts somewhere there. You got to keep scouting till you find those other areas. And then if you're going to still hunt, you still hunt between the areas where they travel. Obviously he said there's a valley between the mountains. They must travel that. But there's going to be some other places because the signpost area is just basically the hub, and they fan out and go different directions. Each buck has a different way he gets there. Just figure out best you can where they're going to the next place and figure out travel corridors if you can see a trail, and that's where you got to hunt. Still hunt those places. And what I've been trying to teach people now is because sometimes, if you break it down, if I break stuff down into smaller little sections, I think people can comprehend it better. So I come up with these little one-liners, whatever you want to call them. But I tell people to spend 90% of your time in 10% of the woods, because that's, I might have said it before on one of these podcasts. So them bucks, whatever size their area is, they're only spending. They only use about 10% of it. You got to figure where the 10% is in the big woods. That's how you break the big woods into smaller chunks and spend 90% of your time in the 10% area. I mean, in the 10% area. Most people spend 90% of their time in the 90%, which would be an open hardwood ridge that looks nice, right? Everybody wants to say, gee, this looks like a great spot here. I'm going to hunt this ridge. Well, yeah, there's deer that come through there. You'll see tracks and stuff, but that's pretty random. So I call that 90%. You got a 10% chance of catching one in that area,
Did you understand anything he just said, Lee? I mean, I understood 10% of it.
Yeah.
All right, maybe you can explain it a little better.
No,
Yeah,
we
I'm just
understand
messing
what you're
with
saying. But to find that 10%, he's got to leave that valley.
Yeah, that's the bottom
You
line.
see what I'm saying?
What I got from it was the fact it was exactly you described where signposts. The best place to find a signpost.
Oh,
trickle
yeah.
and all. I mean,
Right.
it's exactly. He described it to a T. What you described is
Right.
the
Yeah.
best place to find one and where you're going to see them.
I bet
Yeah.
there's yellow grass there.
Haha, yeah.
I'd be curious to know.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
that's, that
Lee will tell us when he goes there.
now that he's got that valley figured out, I'd be looking at the next valley.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I'd go get comfortable with the next valley and next valley. When you start getting comfortable with a township, which is 25,000 acres,
Yeah.
you're going to start killing some deer
Yep.
because you don't care where they go. You just go. And I've said that for years. It took me, that remote camp, I was only out there for probably on my third year. I could tell you about every spot, that
Where
they crossed. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember telling Hal. I remember setting a friend of mine on a crossing, and the buck walked behind her while she was looking the wrong way down the road. And then I told her where it was going to cross the next time, and she didn't beat the buck up there. The buck beat her up there. But yeah, they were, you got to patting them, and that was a 6,000-7,000 acres there that we had
Yeah.
on that one side of the river, or one side of the brook.
I find it's also easy to you find a spot like that and you focus on it almost too much.
Yeah.
You get locked into it until you find the next spot that's just as good. Then
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then it's putting all those together and having multiple areas like that to feed off of.
I like that. Now, and you guys are the same way now. It doesn't really care. You could drop me off anywhere and, take off. It's just being comfortable in the woods. But for people that are just starting to do what we do, to get comfortable with 1,000 acres here and 1,000 acres there, and what I
Right.
mean, hunt those. That's a smart way to do it because it takes your mind off. Where am I? Where's the truck? How am I going to get out? How far am I?
Yeah.
And then you can concentrate on what the buck's doing instead of what you're
Yeah,
doing.
and that just boils down to, like we always say, you just got to allow yourself to get in the woods far enough, to find those other places, People get too confined in the woods,
That's one of the biggest reasons that I prefer hunting alone and
Yeah.
not going with anyone is because you don't have to worry about where anyone is or where they're coming out or what time you're picking them up. Or,
Yeah.
it's nice. You've always been, I don't even know if I've ever known you to go with anyone else anywhere, Hal.
I've hunted with him a few times, but we never worried about where
Yeah.
each other was.
Right, well, yeah, it's different, I guess, with who you're with.
Yeah.
But
I got a funny story about that. This goes back a long time, and Chris was up and Marcus, so that, you got to remember, they were my first clients, and this had to have been back in the 90s, and they were up visiting, and we were playing a game. I can't remember the name of it. It's kind of like a charades game, you pick the card, and there's a phrase or a word on there, and you got to like
Pictionary?
I don't know, maybe it was one of them games, and Chris wouldn't play because he never played games anyways because he hated to lose, so he probably wasn't playing. But throwing him under the bus.
Yeah, he can't even defend himself.
Yeah. Well, he'll probably edit that out.
Yeah,
That's how he
he'll
defends
just
himself.
delete it.
Yeah. So the word was Lone Ranger, and I'm trying to describe it, and I said something like, "This is me in the woods," and nobody gets it. In my mind, it's perfectly clear.
Right.
But nobody guessed it. And then nobody guessed it. The time's up. Nobody guessed it. And they go, what are you talking about? I go, it's the Lone Ranger. And they burst out laughing. They couldn't believe it. They go, he thinks he's the Lone Ranger. And I was just relating it because that's what I always did. I just hunted on my own, Yeah. And, it's fun to go with a bunch of guys and stuff, but you really do have to be kind of mobile, especially like, you can go hunt in the same kind of area, but take your own vehicles because that's really handy because if you got your own vehicle, you might be able to pick somebody else up the end of the day or something, Yeah. And so
that happened to me this year. I had a buddy of mine comes up for a week every year, so we were hunting together and I dropped him off somewhere. Well, I was on a track and it crossed a big stream. I couldn't get across. I really wanted to drive all the way around, but that puts me in a whole different area at the end of the day. And so it changes your hunt, it affects it. So it's just something to consider. When you are going out, it's nice just to be solo and be a Lone Ranger.
Yeah. I like hunting with Hal because he always gives me the first buck track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You might as well take that one, Lib. I'll find another one.
Yeah, I did that for Joe Donito there out in Montana there 2 years ago. I said, we was looking at a bunch of tracks, and it's kind of ironic because they're very similar to the Adirondack-sized tracks. They're not like our tracks, but for him looking at tracks, he was like looking at the same size tracks, and there was a bunch of bucks, and we kept stopping at these tracks, and he'd look at it, and I'd say, no, they ain't no good for out here. It ain't one of the big ones. And we finally, I told him, you got to get back towards the bigger mountains to really, that's where those bigger bucks stay. And so we got almost as far as we could drive back up in the mountain there, and there's this track going across. We jump out and look at it, and
Stave and toe dragger?
Yeah, I go, that's a track right there. And he goes, yeah, that's a good one. I think I'll take that one. I said, yeah, go ahead. And he killed it at 1:30 that day. Beautiful 12-pointer. But anyways, yeah, I gave you that track over there on the strip that time, remember?
Yeah, I should have. In my head, I replayed that because I should have killed that deer. Remember, it was the one that slid down the hill?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was right playing around them cuts.
That thing was walking into a them little jack fir that are like 5 or 6 feet tall. That deer was walking into those when I come around that corner, and I see the firs going, and I see something, but it was so quick that I didn't catch it until I could have at least popped one off. And then I took another 20 steps, and I looked, and he had slid down a bank.
Yeah.
And, slid down on his butt. Because you saw that in the woods, and you said, Liv, did you fall down that hill? And I'm like, no, it was the deer. But that was the deer that so once I got to the bottom of that hill, and I looked where his track was going, I'm like, oh, shit, I just see that deer. But he doesn't know I'm behind him because he didn't see me. So I was sneaking in the fur, and he busted me. He had just laid down, busted me, and I took off running, and I got to the end of this little ridge, and you could look down this tote road to that road that we drove in on. You could see 300 yards, and the last thing I see was him hit the edge of that dirt road and turn left and run right up it. And it was a nice deer.
Yeah.
So in that situation, something just crossed my mind. If I saw a deer going into the firs like that and it didn't see me, and I felt the wind was good, and it was probably different then because there wasn't can called all over the place and everything. But to me, that would be a good opportunity to take a can call out or something and give it a couple turns. Yeah. What do you think about that, Hal? Would you do something like that, or were you just going after them?
You know what? It's a good question, but there's no answer to that because it's whatever your personality is.
Yeah.
So you would probably do it because you got more patience than me. And I'm thinking, I just see him slide in there. I just got to creep ahead a little bit and I'll catch him. See, that's my thought. And I'm sure that's what I do, unless the conditions were like noisy where you couldn't creep. And in that case, you probably wouldn't have seen him anyways. But normally, I'm going to just ease ahead because if you're in that
Try
situation,
to catch a glimpse of him. And it does depend on what the woods are like and everything.
If you can catch that glimpse of him and get a chance, I always felt that I needed to make it happen, instead of waiting for it to happen.
Yep.
If you call, then all of a sudden you've just committed to waiting for 5 or 10 minutes. Because they don't, just because you call don't mean they're going to come running. You know what I mean?
Nope.
They might stand there. And so, it's just your personality. And like I said last year, again, going back to that one I shot last year, the only reason I stood there was because I was convinced the buck had stopped there anyways. So I just said, I didn't hear him run off. I didn't see anything else. So I ended up having enough patience to stand around there for 10 minutes.
That's a long time for you.
I know.
An eternity.
I know.
An eternity.
But what I learned was it worked. You see, so different things work. So that's another, I got a little more ammo,
Yep.
That's why I tell people I learn something new all the time. They go, you must know everything about deer hunting. Nope. Once you think you know everything about anything, you're done, right? There's nowhere else to go.
True.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, Joe here. Wanted to take a few minutes to talk about Lake Parlin Lodge. We're a 4-season lodge located just south of Jackman. We've got cabins, lodge rooms, mini lodge. We're a big snowmobile destination in the winter, full restaurant, bar, all the amenities that you need for your trip. Open obviously through the summer, right on the lake. Kayaks, canoes, all included with the cabin. We also do a lot of weddings, so if you're looking for a destination wedding, we can do a wedding up to 200 people. And, of course, we've got our hunting season, moose season, deer season. So check us out. We're at lakeparlinlodge.com.
Yeah.
Good. Any other terms? Any other words?
You keep going back to terms. We're talking about
we've moved on.
signposts. We're talking about the place down at Kingfield.
I'm still thinking about that drop tying on that picture that looked like a... It looked like a...
Oh, you're going back to the last podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You've been thinking about it for 2 weeks.
Yeah. So now that you mention it again, everybody's going to want to see that picture on Facebook, but that ain't happening.
Where is it?
Well, when I got my hands around them horns, it might
It'll be a
happen.
good comparison picture. Like, this is what he was last year, and this is what he is this year, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I tell you what. No, I don't want to do this. Do I want to do this?
Yeah, you want to do it.
I'll trade you the GPS location of that buck for a week's guiding.
No.
No.
What are you,
Never.
nuts?
And I know the location of that buck.
So
I'm not negotiating with you.
You both are going to need a guide and be like, you know what? I'm going to have to give that up.
Yeah, not happening. It is. It's
You know what?
It's a rarity.
You know what the problem with that place is? Really, is that it's in an area that it doesn't get the snow usually. It's not in the snow belt. But the other problem is there's several other great big bucks there. So if you pick up a track, you don't know which one you're on.
right.
So what are you going to do? Let one of the other 10-pointers go because you want that?
Remember that year you had Steve? It was one of the first years you had guide Steve, and you came back to camp that night, and you kept saying, Lib, there's 5 bucks in this one area, and it was pretty remote. And he's like, that ridge is covered with bucks. You got to get in there the next day. And I couldn't talk my client into going in. I said, let's go in. He's like, no, it seems like a long ways in there. I'm like, let's just go.
I can't remember where that was now.
I do.
If that was my picture, Hal, and I mean, obviously, if you had track and snow, it changes things. But for me, because I have the patience to sit, I would sit that spot from sun up to sundown. I could do that for that buck.
Yeah,
I'd take my chances. The right time of the season. Second or third week, I would have because number one, it's a hot spot. There's a lot of deer running around there. So you never know what's going to come through. But that is, and it's why sitting is so popular, because in a lot of ways it's the most effective way to hunt, for a particular buck.
Yeah. Maybe on bare ground. I could never sit there.
No, with snow it would be, with snow. But with bare ground, no problem.
I might set up a tree stand in there for my grandson.
That is.
I'd tell him, you don't get to shoot that one. It's too big for you.
You can never start a kid off with.
There's the old Hal blood right
That's
there.
right.
You could never start a kid off with a deer like that.
Can't start kids off like that because then they got nowhere to go.
No.
Yeah.
That one's I've never seen. I don't think I've ever seen aside from some of the massive, like the Silver Ridge buck and those giant horn bucks. I don't know if I've seen
Well,
Boone and Crockett bucks in Maine are super rare.
Oh, absolutely.
Super rare. We don't have the nutrients here.
especially up north. They get more of them down east and stuff with it's just genetically different. But, that's the biggest one I've seen since, the one that my hunter killed back years ago there, that long tine
Right.
8-pointer. That was the biggest buck I'd ever seen. But this one here it's built differently, but it's every bit of a buck as that,
That one's the biggest one I've seen killed in that area.
Oh,
I don't think I've ever seen one bigger than that was killed.
No, because that one, I think that one grossed 184 or something, and you just don't get that up our way,
Yeah.
Yeah, so. Well, anyways.
That's going to be a hot topic going into this hunting season, that buck.
It is?
Yeah.
Maybe we should take some odds on whether I get that or not.
Well, we've got the pool started already, and obviously that one's going to win it all if you get it. Lib, have you haven't donated to that yet, I don't think. You weren't over to Shanzy's that night.
Oh, you didn't know? Did you hear about the pool having one?
This is something that we didn't discuss. I don't think we talked about yet, is our scoring system we're using for this year. So the Big Woods Bucks team, it's
You mean for the bet?
Yeah.
Yeah, you get this is remember we had the bet last year on the
moose hunt.
No. Yeah, did we do one on deer? Yeah, we did deer.
We did.
Anyway, this is the Big Woods Buck scoring system.
Right.
It's gross antler inches plus the body weight.
Just weight. So that means a guy.
Yeah, there was a deer because Lee won.
Yeah, you won the horns, and I won the weight because Bo wasn't in on it. So, but this year we're going to get it going early, and everybody that wants to get in will have a chance because there wasn't that many in it last year, the team members. So it's going to be one winner this year, but it's the way we're doing it. You have a chance. It don't matter if you get the heaviest one. You could get a heavy one with light horns or a light one with heavy horns and still be in the money.
Yeah, that's a good way.
But for a main scoring system, it's a pretty darn good way. Yeah, field dressed obviously,
and gross score.
And gross. We're not going to do deductions. If he grew it, he gets it.
Right.
Yeah.
But be kind of a fun way to do it and something different.
I'll be the scorer since I'm the official.
Oh, naturally.
I'm the official.
Don't you know who I am?
Trophy
I'm
Club
the
scorer.
But so I don't know. We'll have to. I think everyone that was over there put in.
We put 50 in on that one, didn't we? Yeah, you got to cough up 50. I think Shanzy's taking the money and putting the names down.
That's right. He was the keeper of the money.
What we should do is we'll get everybody in by the party, and then everybody can.
There we go.
Join up there, and if they don't make it, they can send it if they want to be in. But we'll get the word out to everybody.
So sell a nightstand here or something, and come up with the $50.
And all right.
Yeah. All right. It's been fun. Anyways, fall can't come soon enough, but I'm not wishing away the summer.
That's right. We got a lot of summer ahead of us.
Yep. Lee's got a lot of work to do here this summer.
Yeah. Get ready for guiding.
Yeah. Well.
Or to steal his client's gun and go hunting.
So I'm gonna be in the job force all summer. I don't know as I'll make it till fall carpentering all summer, but I got to make money somehow.
I know a nice little furniture shop looking for help.
Yeah. You build me an apartment on the side here, will you?
Yeah. Put you up.
Why didn't we come up with this sooner? I got a gig.
Yeah.
Move right down to Parlin.
Yeah, I know you do.
If something doesn't come together quick, I might be putting it out on the airwaves.
Yeah. Well,
I thought you had help lined up.
Yeah. Or
he's all set now. He's just teasing me, but yeah. I'm unemployed, so now I'm back to self-employed. Self-employed guide, carpenter, jerk of all trades, whatever.
It's
So
the best way.
Oh, yeah.
Jerk of
It's
all
the best
trades.
way.
I hadn't heard that one. All right, there's another term, jerk of all trades.
jerk of all trades. Yeah.
All right, let's wrap this up.
Let's wrap it up.
Time to eat.
Time to eat. Oh, yeah. We got to go put it on the Big Woody card. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Till next time, good luck on the trail.